Hi, this is Tom Dunlap. Welcome to another episode, special episode of Black Letter Podcast. Today joining me is Cherylyn Harley LeBon. And let me tell you a little bit about our guest today and what she's going to talk about. So what's been on everybody's mind, and both Cherylyn and I and a number of attorneys at Dunlap Bennett Ludwig, our law firm, have spent the last week, maybe 7 to 8 hours a day, talking to clients, government contractors, businesses, everybody about the new SBA lending program, particularly the payroll protection program. So a little bit about Cherylyn, and she's going to tell you about that program. She was at the SBA for a long time. She was the deputy of field operations. She ran half of the agency, overseeing over 50 district offices. She oversaw the 8A program, the disaster program, and compliance. She was the deputy chief of staff, overseeing the entire agency, and formerly the assistant administrator for intergovernmental affairs, working with the White House while at the SBA. She's also former senior counsel for the Senate Judiciary Committee and had oversight over the Department of Justice post 9/11 and national security matters and counterterrorism issues. So today we're going to focus on her SBA experience. Cherylyn, thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate your time.
It is my pleasure, Tom. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, so the first thing I want to ask, I'm just going to kick it off and get right to the meat of this so we can get people the information they need. So right now it's really confusing. There are rumors flying about that you don't have to pay rent, that the SBA is giving away money, that some people can't get the money. It's kind of crazy. And we have heard everything from everywhere. And what we want to do is get to the meat of this. So what can businesses do? What is the SBA offering? And let's start there. What can we do?
So let me just say, these are really unprecedented times, and the White House, the administration, in cooperation with banks, Tom, are really making sure that small businesses, which are the backbone of this economy, are able to pay their employees. And this is really the intent of the Paycheck Protection Program, is to allow businesses and employers to put their workers back to work, right? Because once people are able to work, they can pay their bills, and we've got the economy going. So in yesterday's White House press conference, Mnuchin and Jovita Carranza, the SBA administrator, assured people that the applications would be available today because they've been working in close cooperation with the banks. And as we know it today, Tom, some of those banks are ready to go. Some have said that they will be ready to go on Monday, but please know some are ready to go now, right now. They're taking the applications. So that's all good news.
That is good news. So a couple of questions then about the bank. So first, Jovita, running the SBA, you used to work with her, right?
I did.
With her?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not that gives you an inside track to the SBA, but certainly you at least know what's going on.
Right.
But my second question, so if I'm a business or a business owner, can I go to any bank and apply? Do I have to go to a certain bank? What's your advice? And who do I go to? What bank do I go to?
Excellent question. So this bill has enabled all of the SBA lending banks, so banks that are currently doing 7A loans, they can make these loans. Additionally, this bill has enabled all FDIC-backed banks and credit unions to also be able to make these loans. In a perfect world, Tom, what we would want you to do is to go to an already existing SBA lending bank that you already have a relationship with.
Okay, great. And we've seen some of that. So we talked to a lender the other day that a client has an account at, and that lender said, well, you've never had a credit relationship, and they told the client to go to the bank they'd had a credit line with some years ago because it would be the facilitation of the SBA loan would be faster. So is that good advice? You should find a bank that you've worked with on a credit basis before.
Yes.
That'll be faster.
Yeah, that'll be faster. And, really the key here is to go to a bank that is familiar with how SBA does its lending, right? And that one you already have a relationship with. That's the best scenario.
Now, when can businesses apply for these loans? When does the payroll or the paycheck loan open up?
So it opens today. Again, most banks, I think, are working very hard to be able to do that today. At the latest is most likely Monday for the rest of the banks. And on April 10th, independent contractors and self-employed individuals can start to apply for PPP. April 10th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
So
April
will
10th.
banks be checking credit? Will they be checking business credit, individual credit? How does that work?
Right. Very good question. Based on available guidelines, banks really aren't going to be doing that because the purpose of the bill is really to
Wow.
get things
Okay.
moving,
Yeah.
right? So this is really, unprecedented times here.
Sure. Expedited.
Yeah.
And so if I'm applying for this loan, a couple of things. If I understand the requirements are 500 employees, who counts as an employee? Does that count independent contractors? Does that count part-time workers? What is that 500 number? And does it, and the SBA has these revenue standards also.
They do.
And we've had clients ask us this. They say, oh, I make more money than the revenue standard. But
Right.
my understanding is they can still apply. So they're worried about that 500 number. Is that right?
Exactly. So 500 employees or less, right? That's the that's the key number. And the employees that count are full-time employees, right? So that's kind of important because it's who you're making those payroll, deductions and costs. So that's kind of like the barometer here, the benchmark is who are you making the payroll costs for? And those payroll costs
so it doesn't count. I got you. So it doesn't count 1099s. That's good to know. So you could have 600 1099s, but if you have 100 employees, you're still able to apply.
Right.
So what about what documentation am I going to need to give the bank to get this loan? You said they're not doing credit checks. They're going to need something from me, I assume.
Right. So businesses need to show essentially payroll documentation, Tom. So that would be rent payments, mortgage payments, utility costs, all the things that are associated with payroll costs.
And what if, as a business, I have other outstanding loans? Are they going to be counted against me? Is that something that's going to prevent me from getting this SBA loan?
Excellent question. They're not relevant for these purposes. Again, the government really wants you to be able to pay your employees.
Okay. So how much can I borrow then?
Right.
Is there some way I can get a rough estimate of what my business can borrow? Obviously, I can't borrow. I know the cap is 10 million. I can't borrow 10 million if I'm only making $1 million a year or something, right?
So small businesses can borrow up to 2.5 times their average monthly payroll. So right now we're at April 2020. So what you need to look at is your 2019 costs, right? That whole year before.
Okay.
And you calculate 2.5 times your average monthly payroll costs.
Okay. And for the employee count, so since we're talking about counting, my understanding is you have to take a rolling 12-month average. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The previous year.
So, to do that, this is just what I'm guessing here. So I would have to count how many people I had in December if I had 100, and I had 300 in January and 500 in February. I'd add those numbers together over 12 months, divide by 12.
Exactly. Average it out. Exactly.
And I was an English major, and I did that anyway.
All right.
So, and if I do get the loan, what can I use the loan for? When I apply for this, what am I allowed to use the funds for?
So you can use those, I always go back to the name of the bill because that really gives you good guidance. Paycheck Protection Program. So you can use the loan for those payroll costs, vacation, parental leave, medical and sick benefits, all of those payroll costs. You can use that to pay for those costs. I lost you, Tom.
Sorry.
Here we go.
Can we call this P cubed then? I feel like Paycheck Protection Program or PPP is hard.
We can call it. Let's call it triple P.
Triple P. Okay. Triple P is better than P cubed. Sounds more aggressive and stimulating for the economy.
Right.
So that's fantastic. So is there anything else people should know about this loan as they go to apply. Any other advice you have besides, if you need help, to call you and we can
Right.
walk them through it, obviously. But any other advice businesses can take away from this video?
So I've really been encouraging our clients to, number one, be patient, and also keep in mind that this is a very fluid situation. So just yesterday, Tom, late afternoon, the SBA issued additional guidance. We've been sort of waiting on that guidance all week, but please know that this isn't going to be the last guidance we get on this bill. There's more guidance coming with respect to the loan forgiveness. Details need to be worked out on that. So during these unprecedented times, we're just all trying to be patient. We know that, obviously these times are critical, but as the government is working out the kinks to this bill, they should know that, DBL is really, we're trying to do our best to stay on top of all of these things and to try and
Gotcha.
give our clients as much updated information as we get.
Great. Thank you so much, Cherylyn, for the time today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And we will get this up and out to the people. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on this special edition of the Black Letter Podcast.
Thank you.